Jeff Kelbach. I'm the aging specialist with Johnson County. Welcome to our first in a series for aging in place forums, this one called Communication Must-Haves. I found out about 5 minutes ago that I'm going to be talking at all, so forgive me. I kind of remember what's on these slides from last year, but we'll find out together. There it is, Johnson County Livable Community. A lot of people ask me, what is Johnson County Livable Community? And I always have to cheat and look at something to give you the best and most succinct description I can. Johnson County Livable Community Board serves as a unifying advisory structure that brings together common interests and collective resources to foster efforts to build and sustain a livable community for successful aging. The Johnson County Livable Community Policy Board's efforts occur through a network of action teams, board committees, and with the assistance of a part-time administrative specialist, and also me. One of the action teams I'll be talking about, and the main one, is our housing action team, which is the group that puts together this wonderful 6-month series. Last year's 6-month series was incredibly successful, and I see that there are several folks who made it to at least 1 or 2 of those events last year. We have a whole new series this year, but these are some of the members of the Housing Action Team. Iowa City Area Association of Realtors, the Greater Iowa City Area Home Builders Association, Habitat for Humanity, City of Coralville, City of Iowa City, Johnson County Access to Independence. I'm going to leave out so many. This is, I think, a good list, but it's not even all-inclusive of all the agencies and representatives that we have. It's a wonderful, dynamic group led by Miss Tracy Achenbach right over there. That, once again, just tells you some of the main players in that housing action team: Johnson County Livable Community, Home Builders Association, and the Iowa City Area Association of Realtors. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Monica Hayes and Taylor Gray, who are going to introduce themselves. So, thank you all. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Taylor and I decided the hardest part about this is going to be staying in front of the microphone. So as we started last year, we decided that this was something that would be very good to be out on Channel 4 so that people who couldn't make it here today could still have access to the different forums. And so we thank them for being here, but that means we need to stay right here so they can hear us on the TV station as well. I am Monica Hayes. I am a realtor here in town with Skogman Realty, and I'm also the current president of the Iowa City Association of Realtors. And so welcome to our building. We're happy to be hosting most of the forums again this year. And if you don't know and haven't been here, bathrooms are just out in the hallway here, and just make yourself at home. Let us know if there's anything we can do for you. The lunch today was sponsored by the Association of Realtors Housing Opportunity Committee. So they're looking for ways in the community to promote living for all different types of living situations. So they felt like this was something that they wanted to be a part of and sponsor for us. So the lunch and the gift card is sponsored by that committee. I'm going to let Taylor introduce herself, and then we're going to present some communication stuff to you guys.
Hi, everyone. This is going to be new to me, having this right here. My name is Taylor Gray. I work with Access to Independence here in Johnson County. We are a nonprofit agency. We're called the Center for Independent Living. But basically, we do not have residential, so it's kind of a misnomer. But what we do is we work with folks with any type of disability on goals of being more independent, whatever that may look like for who we're working with. So we do a lot of skill building, information referral, and working with community agencies like Livable Community, and just trying to work with the community however best we can. So I'm happy to be here today, and excited to work with Monica. And yeah, let's get going. We've got this. Okay.
So how many of you were at last year's forums at all? Can we just have a little raise of hands? Okay, so about half maybe. I just kind of want to cover how this came about and where we are. Last year, the housing action team was kind of at a point where we weren't quite sure what we were doing in the community and what was our real goal. And so we decided to put together some forums and really look at the population in Johnson County who were still in their homes and find a way to help them be more successful and independent in their homes. And a big part of the project last year was putting together the Aging in Place checklist, which we're going to cover a little bit in the future. But then as we came together, and then the forums last year really revolved around different sections of that checklist and how to use the checklist in all sorts of different realms of your life and being able to stay at home. Because of the success of the forums last year, we decided it was maybe something that we should continue at least for another year. But as we did that, we wanted to be able to provide different information, have some tangible takeaways for you. And so hopefully you have seen what the forums are going to look like this year, but just want to encourage all of you who came last year, we're going to have all new information this year, so we're glad you're back. I'm going to visit with you a little bit about communication, because really we, in looking at what it took to put a plan in place to really be able to age in place at your home and use the tools that we have created, it boiled down to being able to have good communication. Communication with your loved ones, communication with the support systems that you have, but oftentimes because of the need to feel independent and not want to maybe admit that things are changing a little bit, or I'm having more needs that are making it harder for me to stay in my house, that communication tends to break down a little bit. How many of you feel like it's very easy just to sit down and have conversation, whether it's with your spouse or your children or the support people, about the things that you could use to make your quality of life just a little bit better? Is that an easy conversation for people? So some people saying yeah, some people saying no, not so sure. I have to stay with the slides here. So when we talk about the plan and the communication, we felt like there's 3 different areas that we really wanted to focus on throughout the forums. So the things we're going to be talking about with communication today is relevant to these 3 different areas, but these 3 areas, your living situation, your healthcare situation, and your financial situation, are all things that affect your ability to be able to stay at home, and items that we're going to be focusing on over the next 6 months. So for those of you who find it really easy to be communicating, and those that maybe have a little bit more struggle with how to start that conversation or have those conversations, we want you to be able to share some of those things today and come up with some plans. We're going to have a little bit of group work, which we know everybody loves, and to be able to just talk about what are some of those things that you maybe need to be addressing, or how they have worked well for you in the past. So when we talk about what is the best way, and a lot of it comes down to preparing and actually thinking about what are the things that I need to be looking at, and then coming up with a plan to present that. So when do you feel like is the best time to be starting to think about these conversations? Anybody have ideas on good times to be thinking about the difficult conversations with families? Now? Yeah. How many times does that happen, though? It's hard. It's hard for people to pre-plan and have the conversations. One, maybe the support system or the children don't want to say, hey, I'm seeing some changes that are going on. How can I be helpful? Maybe as a senior looking to their kids, they don't want to burden them with the conversation. So oftentimes what happens is that we wait until a crisis situation and then having to try and put everything together last minute instead of having a well thought out plan. So the other thing that we really found that as we were kind of researching things is that there's a lot of information out there about how to talk to your parents about this type of situation, but not so much on how to talk to your children and be in control and create that plan. And that's something we wanted to be able to do for you. So when we're talking about having the conversation, the very first tip is just to empathize with their feeling. It's really easy to think about yourself and think about how this is my life and I'm losing control of things, or I want to maintain control as much as possible. But oftentimes conversations can go better if you think about where they're coming from as well and how the situation is affecting both sides. So by having some empathy. The second is practicing good communication skills. And when it comes to communication skills, there are many different varieties of things. It isn't just the verbal back and forth. There's things like choosing a time that isn't distracted, being able to have clear verbal conversation back and forth, and then the non-body cues or the non-verbal cues too. So being present in the moment, having good posture, sitting down maybe at the table to do it. Has anybody had an experience where maybe you attempted to have the conversation about something important and it didn't go real smoothly? Anna? Oh, yeah. Sometimes. And what is the biggest struggle you think in a situation like that? And we talked about maybe right after the time of something happening in the family that spurs the conversation. How many of you struggle a little bit with just those support systems not necessarily being around and in person to sit down and have those conversations unless it's a holiday or some big event that people are coming together? And so then you find that you're trying to have some of these hard conversations over the phone, which isn't always the easiest to do as well. So our hope with the communication and creating this plan is that you start to work on the things that you feel like need to be communicated and making those lists. We have some journals we're going to talk about so that you can kind of have your thoughts put together and in a place so that when you can find the right moment to be able to sit down and talk about it, it's not something you're just winging, something that you have control over, and being able to feel really confident about it. So allowing good decisions to be made by all, and it's sometimes hard to bring in your support systems and allow them to help make decisions in your life. But most of the time people are caring about you and want to be there to help, but it's also important to be an advocate for yourself and be able to share what your wishes and desires are. Because if you don't speak up for yourself, then somebody else is probably gonna take over that. And we don't want you to lose more independence by not speaking up. So making sure that you're really a part of that group conversation. Starting the discussion early. So we hope today that you walk away with a few ideas of what are some things that I need to start getting in my frame of mind on paper, discussions that have to start happening now so that you can continue to have that control rather than in the time of crisis. Including the family members and the support systems in the process. Agreeing to disagree. When we're talking about all of these different situations, it's going to be impossible to get everybody on the same page. And so just having the understanding and being able to say, you know what, at this point, I think we just have to agree to disagree. And there's nothing wrong with that. The goal isn't to get everybody going in the same direction all the time. It's for you to be able to express your concerns. And it's all right to be in a position where maybe you just can't come to an agreement at that time and you have to come back to it. But knowing it's okay to agree to disagree. Strive to honor and respect each other. So even though we aren't agreeing with each other, we can still value the other person's opinion, giving them a chance to say what they're thinking, giving yourself a chance to say what you're thinking, and being okay with that situation. And then reevaluate if things aren't working. Don't feel like you have to cram all of your life plans into one session. It's probably going to take many times of having conversation after conversation. And likely, just when you get something figured out, there's going to be a kink in the situation and you're going to have to come back to it anyway. But if you are working on the plan and having that open communication, it's going to go much smoother for you than just not talking about it and waiting for that crisis situation to come. So, improving confidence and your body language. When you picture what this sit-down conversation looks at, where do you picture it to be? So she said she's always felt better in her own home than the kids or the support people's homes. Yeah, to discuss things. I think that's really important. This is your life. Finding that comfort spot and kind of visualizing it is really important because really you want to be in as much control of the situation as possible. And if you're anxious about the place you are, or who's there, or what's going on, or if you feel distracted by the food around the table, it's going to just cause things to not go quite as well. So picturing that place of where is my comfort zone. Some people it might be sitting around the table. Some people it might be on the patio. Go ahead. So she said kind of if she knows it's going to be a difficult confrontational conversation, finding more of a neutral place to meet, one, so that it's a little bit more uncomfortable. If people want to raise their voice, they're not going to be able to do that so easy. And the other thing is so she can get up and leave if she wants to. If you have it happening in your home, it's harder to kick somebody out than just to get up and leave. So her suggestion was that if you're going to have these difficult meetings, maybe to leave the in-laws out of the meeting and just have the children there to have the conversation, and just knowing your family dynamics. I tend to believe if it was my in-laws, they would want me there because I'm going to be the peacemaker for everybody. So everybody's situation is very different, and just making sure that you know that your goals are going to be heard. Looking for that prime time to set little seeds of information so that you can start that dialogue early and then lead up to the bigger conversation. I think a lot of times, too, families do what they've always done. And so if it's been a family that has talked openly and planned together openly in the past, it's much easier to do that type of planning in the future, whether it's funeral planning or housing planning or whatever it is. We just know that some families have better communication or are more comfortable talking about those things, and it tends to follow generation after generation because we learn from what we have been taught. So speaking clearly with direction, thinking about even just your tone of voice, a calmer, lower tone is gonna set the ease or set the conversation than a high, fast-pitched tone, maybe because you're anxious. So really just kind of paying attention to how the conversation's going and what the tone of people's voice is. If things are starting to get heated up or people maybe not necessarily agreeing with each other, just taking a pause and stepping back and being able to kind of reset yourself to the slower, lower paced tone. And then trying to stay positive. And lots of times it's easier to start to talk with something lighter and simpler on a positive note and then work your way to more difficult situations. In talking about the body language, being able to sit open. You know, we all hear about crossed arms and that sends a sign that you're maybe not as open to the conversation. So being able to think about that, making sure the temperature in the room is comfortable. And then just trying to put a smile on your face, because it's really hard to be mad at somebody when you're smiling. And so Anna says, no, it's not. So as things are just starting, you can feel it when there's starting to be a change in the tone, and just sitting back, taking a deep breath, and trying to change the current situation is going to kind of redirect things down a positive path. Looking at different types of communication styles, because we're all very different and we communicate in different ways. This also kind of goes back to what we've been taught about communication and following in the footsteps of the people who have taught us. And I can get this out to anybody too, if you can't see, but talking about an assertive type of conversation, somebody who's going to control the conversation, be very direct in what they're thinking, and maybe talking more than listening to what the situation is. And how to really help with that is just to remind that person that, you know, you want to have a part in this as well, and just taking that pause and being able to say, hey, this is something I want to be able to talk about and I want to communicate with you. Compose would be someone very similar in being prepared and being able to state what their thoughts are, but also being more open to listening to both sides and being able to come up with a plan, compared to just controlling the situation and not caring about the other side. Reserved would be somebody who maybe doesn't say much at all and is not quite sure how to express their opinion and their needs. And dealing with somebody like that is maybe just going to take a lot of encouragement and waiting and just listening. How many times have you asked a question, and maybe while a reserved person is thinking about how they want to respond or having some difficulty responding, you just jump right in and kind of answer your own question or say something different? Then let them just sit and take a minute and wait for them to respond. Divertive, so they want to find any other thing to be talking about than the actual situation and get things off course so that they can't. And sometimes you just have to be direct with that person and talk about the importance of being able to have the conversation. Having those tools and in writing is really key. And just thinking about, there's a lot of resources out there besides what we're going to give you, but even giving those as gifts at Christmas, or birthdays, or, November is oftentimes like advanced directive and planning type things. If you can celebrate those days as this was coming, this is something I thought about, and this is information I would like to share with you. We talked a lot about funeral planning today. Not really where I thought the direction was going, but that's okay. But it is part of difficult conversation, and that's probably one of the most difficult conversations you're going to have. It'd be more situations easier that are easier to talk about, that kind of can lead you into those, like even starting back of retirement and what you're going to do with your time and your space and your money and all of that, and just having open conversations about those little bit of baby steps as you move throughout the process. So we're going to do just a little bit on the worksheets. If you flip them over, You can do this independently if you like, or you can talk with the person at your table. But just think about times in your life where you maybe have had a good communication situation in the past, a time in your life where maybe communication was really bad and you wish you could have done it over again. What you think about for the future might be a good communication time. Or if there's something about in your future that you're a little unsure of that could lead to a bad communication time, just starting to write some of those things down and get you thinking about those things, and just jot a little something in each quadrant of the area. And we're just going to take maybe 5 minutes total on that, and then we'll talk just a little bit about it. Okay, we'll come back together so we have time to share just one or two things, and then we're going to have Taylor talk for a little bit. Does anybody have a really great communication situation? We've had a few shared, but anybody else want to talk about a situation that went really well?
Things like one of my relatives had a very severe stroke and was basically never going to just be on life support. And so when I took my parents there to visit, I brought up that if this ever happens to me, let me go. I'll be in a better place and I'll be pain-free. I don't want to lay here and suffer. So then it started my parents talking too, and so we went along that way. And we kind of always work these things in, like if we went to visit friends who maybe couldn't keep up their house any longer and maybe should have had either help or something, you can bring it up as someone else, and then it rolls around to you and your family's situation. And it's kind of an easy way to work into it. But then I came from a small rural community where basically everybody was somehow related, and so you knew everybody and that type of thing. But it was always just an easy flow, and rather than point out their age, I brought it from my perspective, and it just seemed to go well.
Yeah, perfect. How about a really bad situation? Has anybody had a really bad communication situation? Dick.
I'm a farm real estate broker, so I get involved in selling the family farm annually. You know, I do one or two a year. Back when I was really busy, I did maybe more than one. But I sold a farm in Cedar County one time, and there were 4 kids. And they all divided up the proceeds of the farm, which was a lot of money. And I was coming back from church, and my cell phone rang, and one of them called me on the phone and said, "Dick, can you come over to the farm?" And I said, "Sure." So I went over to the farm, and they got all the furniture that is in this older house. I mean, like a 100-year-old house. Dining room sets, living room sets, on and on and on, and they couldn't decide how to divide it up. Well, this one sister, there was 2 brothers and 2 sisters. This one sister thought she could just tell everybody what they can take and what she could have. Well, it wasn't working out too good. And so they weren't agreeing. So I said, well, let's just have an auction, and you can buy what you want to buy, and you're going to divide the money 4 ways anyway, just like you did the farm. And they said, that's a good idea. The dining room set brought $12,000. The one chair that in a household sale would bring $10 brought $1,500, I think it was. On and on and on. But they got it all settled up, and after it was over, everybody's happy. Because the ones that didn't want any of that stuff got paid. And the ones that wanted it had to pay for it. But $12,000 for the dining room set.
Perfect. All right. Any other bad situation? All right. Was everybody able to come up with 3 things that they think that they should be starting to think about and being prepared to have conversations with? Okay. If not, take that home as homework. So I'm going to let Taylor take over and we'll talk a little bit about the plan.
So we're going to talk a little bit about those steps to put your plan in place. So you will find all of these steps on that first page. And so we're just going to talk through a few of these. So first thing, start thinking and talking about aging in place, like we're doing now. Off to a good start, yeah. So, think about what you want for your future, and how you want to achieve it. It's going to look different for everyone. And I mean, that may be something that, it may be an odd thing to say, but really setting aside time to just think about this, right? We don't often set aside time to just think about one topic. But so, try not to put too much pressure on yourself starting off. But, got to get the ball rolling there to get that started. Step 2, write your thoughts down. Okay, so this is where this aging in place plan comes into play, and this is a great tool to be able to write your thoughts down. Think out loud. It's sometimes good to pull, or useful to pull your thoughts onto the page, and sometimes it may seem a bit different once you write it down. But also, it's important to know exactly, to write down exactly what you're thinking, so that you can communicate your wishes to your support system, your loved ones, when you do decide to talk with them about it. One thing that I do want to make sure is an objective is that you develop goals. Okay, we're at Access to Independence, we're all about developing goals. So having a set idea makes it that much easier to achieve. So if we move on to step 3, it's that meeting with your family, okay? Monica has talked quite a bit about that today, and meeting with your family or support system, and just having an idea of how you want to set up that meeting, how you want that meeting to go, what you want it to look like, and bring this, maybe bring this booklet with after you've worked through it. Bring your ideas to the table and share those goals and the values that you have, because those are an important part of your story and what you want for your future. Okay. So number 4 here, research options with family. Okay. This, if possible, I'm saying if possible because I know we all have strong personalities here and there. And sometimes we want to be more independent, or sometimes and make more of those decisions on our own. If it's possible to bring the family in on some of those research topics, just finding information in the community, maybe learning about different resources and how to create that plan together. It helps to ease family concerns, right? And it makes them feel included as well. And also a lot of times, your family or support system want to be involved. And so I would say if that's in those cases, defining specific tasks, okay? That's something that will be important because group projects sometimes go great. Sometimes you want to have specific tasks to work on so that you're not overlapping or you're not, having 2 very different ideas going at the same time. And it also helps build that mutual respect and boundaries, because there are healthy boundaries, right? We want to respect that as well. Number 5, use your community experts and resources. So here I do want to mention, Livable Communities is happy to provide direction to local experts and resources. If inside the book, your booklet, we do have contact information for Johnson County Livable Community. And that is, I believe, on that second page there. And then on that very last page as well, there is contact information for the Greater Iowa City Area Home Builders Association. Okay, so that's in case you're ever looking for a certified aging in place specialist for any remodeling. So, but feel free to reach out, use your community resources, and if you don't know, what is available, that's okay too. You can come and just say, hey, this is kind of the idea I'm thinking about. Where can we go from here? Okay, there are many people in your community, in our community, who are willing to, to help with that legwork to find out, what resources there are and connect you to those. Because sometimes that's one of the battles there is knowing where to go. So feel free to reach out. And then number 6, put that plan into place. You've worked hard on it. You've had a lot of tough conversations. It's important to, finally say, hey, this is my plan. This is what I want. Now, does that mean it has to be written in stone? No, you can. If you change your mind, you can change it, of course. It's your plan. But it's good to be able to have a solid structure and to be able to communicate that with your support system so that they can follow that structure as well. So, okay. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. Okay, so we hope you enjoy or you're able to go through this Aging in Place Plan booklet. We're very excited to share that with you today. And if you look through, I just really quick want to share. This booklet is separated out in accordance to what Monica described earlier. So your living situation, your health, and your finances. So this book includes all 3 of those topics for you to kind of go through, think about, and just to record your thoughts. After that, we do have also a personal information page. We wanted to include that because sometimes if something happens, someone needs to know who's your doctor, who's your dentist, who's your insurance agent, things like that we don't always, our family members or support system don't specifically know offhand, right? It's good to have that recorded somewhere. And from the conversations we've had, it sounds like some people are already, have already developed those and have that information recorded somewhere for their support system. But if not, I highly suggest you take a look at that. And following that is that Aging in Place checklist that we worked on last year. So if you're looking at housing, if you're looking to see, what kind of modifications can I make so that I can stay in the home that I'm in, this is a great resource for our community, and hopefully it's useful for all of you as well. So I do want to highlight that there are additional events going on for Older Americans Month, and those flyers, I believe, are in the back. Yep, they're back there. Okay, thank you, Jeff. And we do have plenty more Aging in Place forums for you as well. So we hope to see you in the following months. With that, let's see. We want to thank, Iowa City Area Association of Realtors for today. And
the only thing I forgot was that there are some resources on the back, too, even if you want to take the little tips to send to your family members and say, hey, anonymously, here's a little information on how to talk to me about these things. Feel free to take any of those that are back there, and we can take any questions, too, if anybody has anything. All right, so next month we'll be talking about healthy lifestyle. So our hope is that then after each of those sessions, it spurs some thoughts and helps you with your plan, and you can go back to your journal then after each session. So thank you for coming out today, and we'll see you next month.